Let's talk about some comparison and contrast language.
And I'm going to be showing you a slideshow so that you know what language to use in your comparison and contrast essay.
First, we'll talk about adjectives. You can see from this particular chart taken from the Chazal and Rogers that there are many different structures that you could use with an adjective. Please take a moment to read these through. The next one we're going to talk about is understanding longer phrases and structures. I want to take a look at these phrases and structures, and I want you to notice that these are different ways of showing similarity and differences. Take a moment to read through these and see if you recognize them, and if you don't, maybe take some notes. Finally, referring to similarity and difference. Again, there are a number of different ways that you can use these words to talk about similarity and to talk about difference. So take a second and look through these and see if any of them are unfamiliar to you. And if they are, maybe take some notes.
I want to give you an example of how we're going to go about comparing and contrasting. So, we are going to compare and contrast two things. One is high school and the other is university. So, where are there similarities in those two things and where are there differences in those two things? High school, the time when you were young and you had a lot of friends, and big high school, maybe you were at a small high school in Anatolia, you had a locker, and then you had tests. Then you had more tests. You had more tests. Then you had an exam to see if you were able to go into the university. You got to university. Welcome to MEF University. You have maybe fewer friends. Maybe you have more time on your hands than you did in high school. You have fewer classes potentially. You maybe have, it's definitely more expensive than it was. Both of them typically take about 4 years. If you have the preparatory class in high school, then you take 5 years. If you don't, then it takes 4. If you skip out of the preparatory class here in Math University, you could be here between 4 and 5 years. So at the end, you have graduation. Perhaps in high school, you knew everybody. You knew everyone in your class, and you knew a lot of the people that were in the classes above you or the classes below you. You got to university and you didn't know anyone, and you just don't see them as often. There are no dormitories here at the school, so you know fewer people, but maybe you have a tutorial and you get close with those people. Finally, in high school, typically your classes are chosen for you, whereas in university, you choose your class. You choose your schedule. You maybe don't have any classes on Monday or Wednesday. You have a full schedule throughout the first 4 days of the week, and Fridays you don't have school. These are some things that are comparing and contrasting high school and university. You a Venn diagram. We are going to be using Venn diagrams for comparison and contrasting purposes. A Venn diagram basically is two circles that you have joined together so that you have outside parts of the circle which show differences, and then you have a middle inward part of the circle which shows similarities between ideas. So as you can see from this Venn diagram, we have similarities in the middle and the differences on the outside. These are some of the things that I talked about just a moment ago.
Let's check out some sentences using the comparison and contrast language that we learned at the very beginning of the video, and taking the topic of high schools and universities to compare and contrast. Again, this is our language reference, so let's see if we can use some of these structures. Go ahead and take a minute to read these examples. These are the second structures that we looked at. And now let's see some sentences with those structures. Of course, we weren't able to use every structure, but I did use a couple. Go ahead and pause the video and take a look at these two sentences. So let's see if we can use some of these structures in a sentence or two. Take a look.
So, by way of review, we have looked at comparison and contrast language and Venn diagrams, and then using those comparison and contrast language structures to write sentences that we have taken from the Venn diagram.